There's a specific type of silence you've likely come to know all too well. It's the silence that follows the message you spent 20 minutes crafting, only to see the word read appear beneath it like a tombstone. It's the chillingly brief K or LOL that lands with the weight of a slammed door, a digital signal that you've become nothing more than background noise in her world. You feel that familiar knot in your stomach, a mix of frustration, confusion, and a quiet humiliation you wouldn't dare admit to anyone. You've been good, you've been patient, you've been available. You've played by all the rules of a decent man, only to find yourself relegated to the sidelines, watching her give the very attention you crave to everything and everyone but you. This experience isn't just a string of bad luck. It's a symptom of a fundamental misunderstanding of human dynamics, a miscalculation of emotional currency that is costing you dearly. You operate under the logical yet fatally flawed assumption that demonstrating your value will make her see it. So you double down. You offer more of your time, more of your support, more of your energy, hoping that eventually she will have a revelation and recognize the good man in front of her. But what you failed to grasp, and what she can feel in every interaction, is that value isn't something you prove, it's something you possess. The secret isn't to add more of you to the equation, but to strategically remove yourself. And you must stay with me, because the way most men do this is a catastrophic mistake. The final step I will reveal is the most counterintuitive, and it's the only part that truly matters. This is where the game changes, and I'm here to hand you the new rulebook. I'm Ph.D. Emma Madison, and over the course of this video, I am going to guide you through a profound shift in perspective. You will learn the precise psychological mechanism to not just reclaim your power, but to make her painfully aware of the value she so carelessly dismissed. This isn't about playing childish games of ignoring her or seeking petty revenge. It's far more elegant and devastatingly effective. It's about understanding the deep-seated nature of the human ego, specifically how it's fed, how it's starved, and how its entire foundation can be systematically dismantled by a single strategic action that has nothing to do with her and everything to do with you. Before we go any deeper, I want you to understand that this journey requires a complete rewiring of your instincts. The impulse to chase, to explain, to prove your worth, we are going to silence it. In its place, we will cultivate a form of indifference so authentic and so powerful that it creates a vacuum she will be irresistibly and desperately compelled to fill. Stick with me because the final step I'm going to reveal is the one that most men get wrong, and it's the single most critical piece of this entire puzzle. This isn't just about getting her attention. It's about building an unshakable sense of self that makes her validation completely irrelevant. And as a little experiment in connection, I'd love to see how far this message is reaching. Take a moment and drop a comment below letting me know what city or state you're watching from. It's always fascinating to see our community grow. To truly grasp what's happening, you need to stop thinking like a detective looking for a single piece of smoking gun evidence and start thinking like a seasoned art historian examining a masterpiece. You've been fixated on isolated incidents, a single text, a specific tone of voice, one canceled plan, believing each one holds the definitive answer. But that's not where the truth lives. From my perspective, female interest and disinterest is rarely communicated in one loud, obvious signal. It's a watercolor painting, not a photograph. It's revealed in the subtle blending of patterns, the consistency of behavior over time, and the emotional coherence or lack thereof between her words and her actions. You're looking for a single word when you should be learning to read the entire language of the painting, noticing the subtle shifts in color and texture that tell the real story. This language is composed of elements you've likely noticed but dismissed as unimportant. It's in the timing of her responses, not just the content. Is there an eagerness or a consistent lethargic delay? It's in the contradictions. Does she say she misses you yet makes no tangible effort to see you? It's in the silences. Are they comfortable in connecting, or are they voids you feel compelled to fill out of anxiety? These aren't random occurrences. They are data points that, when collected, form an undeniable trend line. Ambiguous intentions where she keeps you in a state of maybe are not a sign of her confusion. They are a sign of her control. Your mistake has been to interpret each of these signals in isolation, giving her the benefit of the doubt every single time, when the pattern itself was the only message you ever needed to hear. My role here is to act as your translator, to give you the framework to interpret these patterns with the clarity and confidence you've been lacking. As a woman, I can tell you that these signals are being broadcast constantly, often unconsciously, creating a rich tapestry of intent. The man who learns to see the whole picture, who understands that context and repetition are everything, is the man who can no longer be manipulated by a single misleading thread. He doesn't react to every little thing because he's not supposed to. He is supposed to observe, recognize the overarching pattern of disrespect or disinterest, and then, without anger or fanfare, make a decision based on that undeniable data. This is not about emotional reaction, it is about strategic action, and your first action is to finally see the situation for exactly what it is. The very first step in this entire process is not an action, but a profound and deliberate cessation of action. It's the conscious decision to stop feeding the machine that is starving you. Your energy, your attention, your time, these are the most valuable currencies you possess, and you have been handing them out for free, effectively telling her that they are worthless. The initial move is to simply stop. Stop initiating conversations that you know will lead nowhere. Stop sending the good morning text that gets a one-word reply 8 hours later. Stop rearranging your schedule for a maybe that never materializes. This is not about giving her the silent treatment. That's a reactive, childish tactic. This is a strategic internal pivot where you reclaim the energy you've been wasting. But simply stopping isn't enough. That energy must be redirected, and where you point it next is the first real secret to fundamentally altering the power dynamic. You must understand the psychology of the void you are about to create. Her ego has become accustomed to a steady, reliable supply of your validation. It's like a low-level, constant hum in the background of her life. She doesn't consciously notice it, but she would instantly perceive its absence. When you strategically withdraw this supply, you don't create anger, at least not at first. You create a quiet, unsettling vacuum. The space that was once filled with your predictable attention is now empty, and this emptiness is a question mark. It forces a subconscious audit on her part. Where did the energy I was getting go? The human mind abhors a vacuum, especially an ego that has grown dependent on external validation. Her first impulse won't be to respect you. It will be a reflexive, almost primal need to figure out why the supply was cut and how to get it flowing again, if only to reassure herself that she still can. This brings us to the most immediate and tangible battleground, the digital world. Your first observable action is a complete overhaul of your digital posture. This is not a game of waiting 3 hours to reply to a text you saw instantly. This is the natural consequence of a man who has something better to do. Your responses become shorter and more delayed, not because of a rule book, but because you were genuinely in the middle of something more important. The desperate energy that bled through your previous texts, the carefully chosen emojis, the follow-up questions to a dead conversation, is replaced by a sense of purpose. When she sends a low-investment text, your reply is brief, polite, and doesn't beg for a continuation. You're not being rude, you're being busy. You're communicating through your actions that your phone is a tool for logistics, not a portal for her validation. But this is just the shadow. The real work, the work that casts that shadow, happens in the physical world. Here is the absolute core of this entire strategy. The this that the title of this video promises. You must redirect 100% of the mental, emotional, and physical energy you are pouring into her and channel it into a singular, observable mission. This cannot be a fake hobby or a temporary distraction. It must be a genuine pursuit of excellence in one area of your life. It could be a physical transformation, committing to the gym with a ferocity you've never had before. It could be a career ambition, dedicating your evenings and weekends to a project that could get you a promotion. It could be a creative passion, learning an instrument, writing a book, building a business. The specific mission matters less than its authenticity and your total commitment to it. This mission becomes your new center of gravity. It is the new source of your self-worth, and unlike her, it gives back everything you put into it. This redirection of energy will inevitably manifest in your physical presence, and this is a signal she cannot ignore, misinterpret, or swipe away. A man on a mission moves differently. His posture straightens, a natural consequence of newfound confidence and physical strength from the gym. His eye contact becomes steady and assured because he is no longer seeking approval in the faces of others. He starts dressing better, not to impress her, but as a sign of respect for the man he is becoming. These are not conscious affectations. They are the unavoidable byproducts of a man who has a purpose beyond chasing a woman's validation. When you next encounter her, she will not be met with the same man she so easily dismissed. She will be met with a physical embodiment of self-respect, and that is a language the ego understands perfectly, even when it can't articulate why. Inevitably, once she senses this shift, she will initiate her first test, the breadcrumb. This is a low-effort, high-reward attempt to see if she can still command your attention. It will arrive as a meaningless text like, "Hey," at 10 p.m., a reply to an old Instagram story, or a random meme that seems to have no purpose. Your old self would have leaped at this, seeing it as a sign of hope. But the new you understands it for what it is, a probe. It's her ego's way of asking, "Are you still mine to command?" Your response here is critical. You must not ignore it, which can seem aggressive, but you must not reward it with enthusiasm. A calm, delayed, and simple response like, "Hey, what's up?" or "Haha, that's funny," is all that's required. You are acknowledging her existence but refusing to give her the hit of excited, immediate validation she was seeking. You've passed the first test. Now, let's take this from the private world of text messages to the public arena of social interaction, where the stakes are higher and the signals are amplified. In any social gathering, your previous instinct was to orbit her, making her the sun to your planet. Your focus now shifts entirely. You are no longer scanning the room for her, but are instead deeply engaged in conversations with others, preferably conversations about your mission. You are laughing, you are passionate, you are the center of your own vibrant social circle. She is no longer the main event. She is just another person in the room. When she sees you across the room, not looking for her, not trying to catch her eye, but genuinely captivated by your own life, it's a profound psychological blow. You have publicly demonstrated that your social fulfillment is not dependent on her, and the loss of that perceived power is a direct hit to the ego. Beneath these behavioral shifts, a more profound internal change must occur. This is the cultivation of genuine emotional indifference. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's about reaching a state where her moods, her actions, and her validation truly lose their power over your emotional equilibrium. Her having a bad day no longer ruins yours. Her posting a story that would have previously sent you into a spiral of anxiety now barely registers. This is the result of finding a more stable and reliable source of self-esteem, your mission. The emotional logic shifts from, "I need her to be happy so I can be happy," to, "I am building a life I am proud of. Her participation is welcome, but not required." This quiet, unshakable inner peace is the ultimate form of high value, and it's something that a woman who is used to controlling men's emotions can sense immediately, and it both terrifies and fascinates her. When the breadcrumbs and subtle tests fail to pull you back into your old orbit, she is likely to escalate to a direct confrontation, often disguised as a question of concern or accusation. You will receive the text or the call you've secretly fantasized about. "Why are you being so distant?" Or, "Are you mad at me?" This is a critical juncture. She is attempting to frame your newfound independence as a fault, as something you are doing to her. The wrong move is to be defensive or to apologize. The correct move is to apply calm, unbothered confusion. A simple, "Distant? Not at all, just been completely swamped with, everything's good. What's up?" This masterfully reframes the situation. It denies her the drama she expects. It subtly reinforces your new high-value status, and it places the emotional weight back on her to explain why she feels that way, without you ever having to justify your own life. The next layer of this process involves a power you've had all along but have been too afraid to use, the power of non-reaction. As she feels her control slipping, she may deploy more overt tactics to provoke you, to get any reaction that proves she can still affect you. This might be a social media post with another man, a story from a place you were meant to go together, or a comment that is subtly designed to get under your skin. The old you would have reacted with jealousy, anger, or hurt, immediately texting her and revealing your emotional vulnerability. The new you, the man on the mission, has no reaction at all. You either don't see it because you are not looking, or if you do, it doesn't trigger you. Your piece is no longer a pawn in her game. This silence, this absolute absence of the reaction she was counting on, is more deafening and more destructive to her ego than any angry outburst could ever be. As you continue to invest in your mission and yourself, an interesting side effect begins to occur. You become more attractive to everyone. People are drawn to passion and purpose. You will find yourself having more engaging conversations and making more connections, with both men and women who are interested in the energy you're putting out into the world. She will notice this. This phenomenon, known as social proof or preselection, is a fundamental trigger of attraction. The fact that other people, especially other women, now value your time and attention dramatically increases your perceived worth in her eyes. The man she dismissed is now a commodity that others desire, which forces her to question her initial judgment. It's an undeniable, primal signal that she may have made a grave miscalculation. After a period of your consistent, unshakable indifference and rising social value, the nature of her tests will likely change. The low-effort breadcrumbs and provocations may evolve into a more seemingly genuine attempt at connection. You might receive a message like, "I feel like we haven't really talked in a while, I miss you." This is the moment she finally offers a sliver of vulnerability, and it's precisely where you must be most careful. The temptation is to believe you've won and immediately revert to your old, accommodating self. This would be a fatal mistake. Your response must be warm but controlled, validating her sentiment while firmly maintaining your frame. A text like, "It's good to hear from you, it has been a while. I've just been incredibly focused on the mission. How about we grab a quick coffee on Thursday afternoon? I have a small window then." This response is perfect. It's positive, but it frames the meeting on your schedule, on your terms, reinforcing that your time is valuable and your mission comes first. Ultimately, you will reach the final, most profound stage of this journey: authentic indifference. You will realize that this entire strategy was never truly about her. It was never about destroying her ego as an act of revenge. It was about building your own identity so thoroughly that her validation becomes completely and utterly irrelevant. The true sign that you have mastered this is not when she comes running back, but when a part of you realizes you are no longer certain you would even take her back if she did. You have built a life, a purpose, and a sense of self that is so fulfilling that her presence is merely a potential enhancement, not the missing piece. This state of genuine self-sufficiency is the most powerful and attractive position a man can occupy, and it is from this foundation of unshakable strength that you can finally navigate the final, most critical step of this process, which changes everything you thought you knew about winning this game. Let's bring this into sharp, undeniable focus with a few concrete examples. Picture this. You're at a crowded party, and across the room, you see her. The old you would have immediately felt a jolt of anxiety, your internal compass locking onto her as your true north for the evening. Your mission would have become, find a way to talk to her. The man on the mission, however, operates from a completely different script. He's already deeply engaged in a passionate conversation with someone else, his body language open and expressive, his laughter genuine. When his eyes eventually scan the room, they don't seek her out with needy desperation. They might pass over her, giving a brief, polite nod of acknowledgement if eye contact is made, before immediately returning to the person he's with. This isn't a performance. He isn't showing her he's having a good time. He simply is having a good time, because his fulfillment is no longer outsourced to her attention. That small, almost imperceptible moment of being seen but not prioritized is a profound psychological shock to an ego that was used to being the main event. Now let's examine the digital battlefield, where so much of this validation is won and lost. Before, your text exchanges were a study in asymmetry. You would send a carefully constructed paragraph, full of witty observations and open-ended questions, only to receive a single, conversation-killing LOL in return. The new you responds to this low-investment communication with perfect logical mirroring. She sends you a meme late at night. Instead of seeing it as a sign of interest, you see it for what it is, a low-effort bid for attention. You don't reply until the next morning, and your response is simply, funny. When she predictably tries to bait you with, that's all you have to say? You don't apologize or explain. You reply, was asleep, now I'm heading to the gym, what's up? You are not playing a game of who cares less. You are simply demonstrating through your actions that your life, your sleep, and your goals now take precedence over a meaningless late-night digital exchange. You've replaced your desperate need for connection with a quiet dedication to your purpose. Finally, let's explore the most powerful and most misunderstood tool in your arsenal: the strategic use of silence in a live conversation. Imagine you're finally having that coffee she suggested. In the past, you would have felt an overwhelming pressure to fill every single pause, to keep the conversation flowing, to entertain her. Now you ask her a thoughtful question and you simply wait. You hold her gaze with a calm, relaxed confidence, and you allow the silence to hang in the air. This is not an aggressive, intimidating silence. It is a confident, patient silence that communicates you are not afraid of a moment of stillness. It gives her the space to think, and more importantly, it subtly shifts the pressure to her. The man who is comfortable with silence is the man who doesn't need anything from the person he's with. He is there to connect, not to extract validation. This quiet display of inner security is more compelling and more unnerving to her ego than any grand gesture you could ever make. It is absolutely critical that we pause here and address a dangerous trap that many men fall into at this exact stage. You will be tempted to interpret every single sign of her renewed attention as a victory, a confirmation that the strategy is working and that you have won. This is a fatal error in judgment, a superficial reading that can undo all of your hard work. Her reaching out after a period of silence is not a trophy. It is simply data. It could be a genuine sign of reevaluation, or it could be a reflexive twitch of her ego, a simple test to see if she can still pull your strings. It could be boredom. It could be a moment of weakness. To immediately assume it is a sign of her profound change of heart is to fall back into the same pattern of wishful thinking that made you vulnerable in the first place. Your job is not to celebrate her text, but to calmly observe her actions over time. Is there consistency? Is there genuine effort? Or is it just another fleeting, low-investment bid for the validation she has come to expect? Let's also be unequivocally clear about the nature of the silence you are creating. This is not a punitive weapon you are wielding to teach her a lesson. That is the mindset of a child. The silence, the distance, the lack of immediate availability. These are not the tools of your strategy. They are the natural, unavoidable byproducts of a man who is genuinely focused on his mission. If you are faking your busyness, if you are staring at your phone waiting for the right time to reply, you have already lost. The power comes from authenticity. Conversely, you must stop interpreting her ambiguity or silence through a lens of hope. The most common mistake men make is reading her lack of clear interest as a test or a sign that she is secretly shy. This is a fantasy you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of the truth. From this point forward, you operate on a new rule. Ambiguity is a no. The absence of a clear, enthusiastic, and consistent yes is a clear, actionable no. You must base your decisions on the reality of her actions, not the fantasy of your hopes. And so we arrive at the final, most profound illusion you must dismantle, the last ghost in the machine of your own ego. You came here today drawn by a title that promised the destruction of her ego, and every step I've guided you through has been a necessary part of that process. But the ultimate revelation, the secret that elevates this from a mere strategy into a permanent philosophy of power is this. The desire to destroy her ego was the last, most subtle chain she had wrapped around you. The true victory is not the moment you see her crumble. It is the moment you realize you are no longer checking to see if she has. As long as you are emotionally invested in her reaction, even a negative one, she still holds a piece of your focus. The final escalation is not an action you take against her, but an internal shift where her entire existence as an emotional benchmark in your life is dissolved. It's the quiet, liberating realization that you've been so consumed with building your own empire that you've forgotten you were ever at war. The most devastating blow to her ego is not your anger or your indifference. It is your genuine, unadulterated, and complete irrelevance. So now you see the truth. The goal was never to tear her down, but to build yourself up so completely that her opinion becomes a whisper in the storm of your own making. You've reached a state of genuine indifference, the foundation of all true power. But this raises the most critical question. What do you do when she inevitably comes back, not with breadcrumbs, but with a full-blown attempt to re-enter the life you've built without her? Handling this moment incorrectly undoes everything. That is why you must continue this journey with me, right now. The video on your screen, The Return, How to Set the Terms When She Comes Back, is the essential second half of this conversation. It's the practical guide for what comes next. Click it and let's complete your transformation.